Friends, welcome back to page two and welcome to panel shooting, pick of the week. For those of you who are returning listeners, thanks for joining us back again. And for those of you who are new, this is the series that we read our stack of comics every week and we talk about them. What we liked, what we didn't like, and then we talk about our favorite, which we call the pick of the week. And at the end, we will be discussing the Chris Claremont run of X-Men, issues 117, 118. This is available on Hoopla and Libby. For those of you wanting to read along with us, it is free to do. So we read 2 issues a week, and I'm going to talk about them after we go over our pick of the week. And Jarrod, how are you doing?
Doing great, Steve. And I hope you're doing just as well with comics reading.
Well, there's comics reading, and then there's everything else. And I have had one of the worst weeks. My week has been a shit sandwich with no bread, basically. So they got me thinking, which to go to our topic is our comfort reads. So when you're having a bad time, just life is just kicking dirt in your face and you're trying to get up, what is your go-to read to kind of make you feel better or just kind of go to a happy place?
Oh, that's a good question. My go-to read has always been Conan comics. Those are the ones that I've always held on to, even though I've sold off a lot of comics over the years, pieces of collections here and there. But I've never even let people who wanted to buy my comics see my Conan comics. I always kept them hidden away so nobody would even offer me.
Really?
Yeah, because I just those are the ones that mean the most to me, and yeah, I love them. So fortunately, they're still coming out, so I don't have to go digging for them to read. I can always read the new ones that come out. But I have in the past when there's been a break in the Conan publication. Gone back to some of those old ones, and especially those early Roy Thomas and John Buscema stuff. That's some of my favorites. But yeah, that's the main one. There's a few others here. A couple of those black and white comics from the 80s, the Adventurers and stuff. I like going back to those every once in a while. But Conan's the main one. Yeah.
So before I get to mine, what is it about those books that makes you reach for them kind of for comfort? What is it, just a nostalgia thing, or what is it that draws you back?
Yeah, partly nostalgia, but there's also, I mean, there's a draftsmanship of the artwork which I find unparalleled even up to this day. It was just so good, but there was something that those two specifically captured in the art of adaptation that I don't think has been captured in the film business quite as good as that, and that very few people have captured in comics either, like they have. And there was and it wasn't just, it went beyond just retelling the stories that Howard told. It was it was a process, an adaptation process that both respected and enhanced the original stories that I think hasn't been beaten yet in comics. And it's just I appreciate that when I go back and see those, and I'm wowed again every time I do.
Yeah, so this last week has just been anything that could go wrong, any worst case scenario happened. It's just small things, big things. It is just everything is just going wrong. And I find myself reaching for Crossed, which is a strange thing. And I wondered, why do I reach for this book? Because I always get strange looks whenever I say that. But I think it's because it's kind of a reminder that it's not all that bad compared to what the characters in the book are going through. And I think it's part of it is perseverance of, it's kind of like why I enjoy kind of dark fantasy sometimes, is because seeing people persevere through insurmountable odds and kind of, find a way. I think it's kind of inspiring in some twisted way in my little brain. So maybe that's what it is. But yeah, I just every time though I end up, and it was convenient because Jose and I are discussing the series this weekend. So yeah, it's good timing. It worked out pretty well. But
Yeah, there's something to be said for losing yourself and realizing that at least it's not as bad as that.
Yeah.
There's something to be said for that. It gives you backs you up, gives you a sense of perspective, and allows yourself to move on.
Yeah, the world hasn't been taken over by insane, murderous, infected people. So I guess, it could be worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or evil dragons. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? But I am surprised that they haven't, considering the success that Game of Thrones had. I know that kind of fantasy train has died off a little bit, but I'm kind of surprised that they haven't tried another Conan adaptation, kind of a more serious one that kind of takes the source material a little bit more seriously. Because I think the Schwarzenegger movies are fine. I think most people like those because it's Conan and because it's nostalgia. I don't remember them being very good movies, but kind of goofy in a way. It's kind of a. But I wondered, why haven't they tried another Conan film, like a serious, not like a, maybe not rated R, but something that would appeal to the, like a PG-13, but taking it seriously kind of thing.
Yeah, I wonder about that too because they did a Conan movie with the guy from
Oh,
Game of Thrones,
Carl
Jason,
Drago, Jason
Jason
Momoa.
Momoa.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was just cheap pastiche. It wasn't even really Conan. It was just a guy with a sword on a mission of vengeance,
Mhm.
and it didn't. It could have been any setting whatsoever. So yeah, I wish that you could find somebody who doesn't want, because you put the name Conan up on a screen, and you're gonna get a certain audience, and they're gonna be there, but you want to find somebody who has a true love for the material,
Mhm.
and I thought the first Conan movie with Arnold, um, it did try at least. I mean, it got campy at
Mhm.
points and stuff. There was certain images that they did steal from the comics and the books, at least,
Mhm.
that at least tried to go there. But of course, they didn't have the special effects and the budget that back then that would have had a bigger impact maybe on those things, and they relied on a young Arnold who's, let's be real, his acting chops weren't really gonna
No.
pull it off at the time. I'm sure he's got better over the years, but um, during that time it was a little rough,
Yeah.
and so it's yeah, I wish there was somebody who would take it seriously, and who would get good actors involved, whether they're well known or not, just good actors, and see where they could take it. But yeah, I don't step on my dreams now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I hope they give it. I hope they give it another try. I think it'd be worth it, and it doesn't have to be a big budget either. I think they can make it work
Yeah,
for a smaller budget.
and it's prime material for either a movie one shot or a series,
Mhm.
because it's not like you have to encompass a huge storyline into a 2-hour movie or anything like that. It's so diverse, you can pick and choose,
Mhm.
or you could do an episodic series on TV, on a good style of network or whatever.
Yeah. One of these days, I think Game of Thrones ending the way it did, and then kind of, uh,
Yeah,
what is it? The Witcher kind of sputtering out, and Wheel of Time sputtering out. I
yeah,
think it's probably not. They're probably not taking as many chances on those kind of series anymore because it seems like
Yeah,
that train has died down a little bit. So
yeah. This emphasis on throwing money at things rather than investing in talent on things. Um, it's a unfortunate side effect of the success of Game of Thrones, and I think people have been worn out by that.
yeah, yeah. So well, if anybody listening has a comfort read they want to share, there's a link down below. Send us a message, or of course you can jump on the forum and comment your comfort read, whatever it may be, and why you find comfort in whatever read that you reach for in those bad weeks, like mine. But so anyway, all
We
right.
all have them.
Yes, we do. It's just one of those things where I was due, I guess, for just a. It's been a week, but it'll turn around. I hope.
All right. Well,
So
let's get into some good stuff.
let's get into some good comics.
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately won't start with a really good comic, but
We'll get the bad out of the way first.
yeah, we'll get the not so great out of the way. So this is Absolute Green Lantern number 4, and this seems like the end of the first arc. I have to be honest, I'm a little bit confused as to what's going on. I feel like if you know more about Green Lantern lore, it might make more sense to you, kind of what's happening, which is unfortunate because I thought the whole point of the Absolute line was for people like me who don't know decades and decades of lore, who can jump into it and kind of get a different, perspective without having to know too much background. And it's kind of like there's an inside joke that I'm just not getting and everyone else is laughing. So this one, this first storyline seems to come to an end. I'm not really sure. There's things that I'm picking up on, some references, but I don't know what's going on. And the artwork, I think every time I talk about this book, I mention the artwork, but it's has more of like a manga feel to it. And this book seems a lot more serious and kind of like has like a horror slant to it. And it just doesn't fit. And it just feels off, which is unfortunate because the art is fine. It's not bad. It just doesn't fit. And I think that makes it a little lopsided. So it's not a huge deal, but I think it's doing the story a disservice, and the story is doing the art a disservice by them being paired together. I just don't think it's a good pair. So I'm going to hang on. I'm going to wait and see what issue 5 brings, but it is starting to lose me. I'm starting to waver a little bit, unfortunately. And really, this made me appreciate Absolute Superman a lot more because of what they're doing over there, which I think there's a new issue of Absolute Superman this week, which is exciting.
Yes.
But yeah, so it made me appreciate that story more because of what they've done with it. So I'm still, I still want to like this book. I still want it to turn around, much like Absolute Flash. I want Absolute Flash to work. I want to enjoy it, but I'm just not there yet. So fingers crossed, it'll improve.
You have more patience than I do.
Yeah, well, there's another book later we'll talk about that I threw in the towel. So
Ah.
yeah,
Well,
got to get the trumpet sounds and the trombone sound ready.
yeah. So I picked up this on a whim. It's a new incarnation of Eerie magazine from Von Hoffman Publications, which is a new company too. The person behind this, Mike Hoffman, is an artist. He does a lot of cover art and stuff like that. And I like a lot of his cover art. And so I was just like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna pick it up and check it out and see what it's about. Eerie magazine, I think, was around a long time ago. But the this is a new first issue. It's a magazine size, which I enjoy too. I like the magazine comic book size. Unfortunately, it's a bunch of short little stories in here, and I don't know. I think I was just hoping for something a little more serious. It's supposed to be horror based on the title Eerie, but it was just goofy. It was just goofy little stories, and each one ended with this weird little ending that was just like, haha, this wraps it up, and I just got sick of it after the first couple, and they kept doing the same thing with each story, and I was just like, okay, this is not for me. And I mean, the artwork was okay. Some of it was drawn by Mike Hoffman himself, and
Hmm.
some of the other stuff was another artist. But it did not. I just didn't jive with it. I think if somebody likes a little bit of humor, and it has a little bit of horror trappings, but it likes humor, then they might like this book, and they might get a kick out of it. But for me, it fell flat, and
Hmm.
I won't be continuing on with this one.
R.I.P. to Erie
Yeah.
on the pull list. Unfortunate. So, all the stories have kind of the same ending, the same style of ending? Is that kind of consistent
Yeah,
through?
it's consistent. Yeah, it's like this kind of like this pull away the curtain ending, and haha, here's a source of all our trouble, or here's the perspective, and or you know there's somebody getting dragged away for a final ending. That's supposed to be scary, but it's not really.
Hmm. Yeah, I think much like compiling an well, I know most people don't appreciate albums anymore, but when albums were appreciated,
Yeah,
now everything's streaming singles, but there was an art form, or there is an art form, to putting a track list together for an album and to have a certain kind of beginning, middle, and end. And I think it's the same thing with anthologies, and it's kind of where to put the stories and to not have the same kind of style of story every time. Because if you're reading an anthology, you kind of want some variety. I think that's a little bit. I mean, you have like a common theme,
yeah,
but you don't have you don't want all the stories to follow the same path and to have the same kind of flow. So I think that's kind of a question. It's a strange decision to make.
yeah. It is.
Yeah,
But I mean, some people might like that stuff. So,
yeah,
um, and there is a little sense of nostalgia to it. So I might get there as well.
yeah. Okay, the next one on my list is Gehenna, number one. Now this is a mix between, I wrote down, the movie The Professional and The Punisher. So it's a woman vigilante, and it's an action packed first issue, lots of fighting, lots of gunplay, and we start to learn. She's on a quest for revenge and for vengeance, and she's kind of she's not an unstoppable force. She doesn't seem like she's like superhuman, but she obviously knows what she's doing, so I appreciate that. She's not like this unkillable Terminator kind of thing. Like, she's a person who can be killed or hurt. And what I'm so the artwork, the story, everything was fine. There's lots of, like I said, there's lots of action. There's enough character and story to start filling things in. So it wasn't just action for just wall to wall, but you start to learn more about her and kind of what motivates her and why she is doing what she's doing in this issue. The the thing I'm wondering about is because there's a subtitle to this book, and the subtitle is Naked Aggression. And if you would just see the title, it would just normally turn me off. Like that, it sounds like a Zenoscope book or something, like a book that's more about, you know, kind of visual and not kind of substance. Like, it's more kind of appealing to a certain demographic. And which is fine. If you're into that, that's cool. Enjoy it. But it's not that kind of book at all. It's not in any way kind of, I don't know if it's just like a play on words or if it's just kind of poking fun at things, or I don't know but it's a strange choice to name it, to give it that subtitle, because it just did not fit this book at all. And I'm glad the person in the store told me that, because I would have never picked it up had they not told me that it's not like you know, it's not like a Zenoscope type of, you know, just visual and no substance. So But yeah, overall, I think it was fine. It was fun, and I'll come back for issue 2.
Yeah, cool. All right.
But titles matter, people. Titles matter.
Speaking of titles, this is a mouthful. I have The Killer Affairs of the State 2, number 2. And this continues the killer story about our philosophical assassin, and it continues from the from the previous issue. These books pack a lot into them. There's a lot of dialogue, but I think the page count's a bit higher too, and it really the print quality is like the book's hefty compared to a regular comic book. So I don't know if they use thicker pages or what have you, but either way, you get a lot of bang for your buck with this book. It's really done well, and Jackamon and Matz are the creators here, the writer and artist, and this is just such a solid book that's always consistently good. It really it has a great story. Continues on in the first one. He's now working for the state, which is part of the title here, so it's not giving it any away. And it really explores that relationship he has with his handlers, so to speak, and it's really cool because sometimes the handlers kind of turn the tables on him about how he thinks about his victims and or
Hmm.
his assignments and stuff like that. And there's a lot of back and forth between them philosophically, and I really like how they explore that in here. And it's really cool. I think the character has evolved from his initial appearances. This is like the fifth or sixth volume that that they've gone through with this character, and I think he's really evolved and that's shown in his thoughts, how he approaches his work,
Hmm.
and how the situations that arrive are looked at, and I appreciate that, even though don't uh, like him too much because he is an asshole and he is and he
Yeah.
is an assassin. So,
Yeah.
but but I like how they're handling the character. So that's the main thing. That's pretty good. I, I'm really enjoying this series.
Nice. I think it's the killer is an interesting character because if you think assassin, you think of this like kind of a athletic or muscle bound type of person, or kind of someone who can you don't want to run into in a dark alley,
Yeah,
someone who's very intimidating and you would spot in a crowd. But the killer is just like a normal. If you saw him on the street, you'd probably think he's just a normal person.
yeah,
But I think that kind of makes him. I think that's probably what if there. I'm sure there are assassins out there. They probably look more like him than like Arnold Schwarzenegger or Sylvester Stallone or something. So
yeah, yeah. And that's part of the appeal of the series is
hmm.
it's all about state of mind for him. It's not has nothing to do with his. I mean, yeah, of course, he has training and stuff like that, but it has nothing to do with how physically powerful he is and stuff like that. It's
Hmm.
all state of mind, and it's portrayed very well.
Nice. And I get to that. That sounds really great. So the next book for me, so I really enjoyed out of Alcatraz #1. It's this historical fiction, kind of a taking the escape from Alcatraz, the three prisoners who escaped, and giving them a backstory and kind of a what if on whether or not they survived and what happened after. And it's kind of I really enjoyed the first issue. I thought it was kind of it threw three different people together. There was somebody helping them escape and get onto the start a new life. So it had this group of people who really don't trust each other, and in this really kind of tense situation where they're all trying to survive. They don't trust each other. They're all kind of feeling each other out, and it's kind of gone from that into just they just do the dumbest things over and over and over again. They make the stupidest decisions, and it's just no wonder you were in prison, because you just do the dumbest shit. And it's just, and there's somebody there telling them, don't do this, whatever you do not do A, B, and C. And then they run off and do A, B, and C right after. And it's like, it's just a way to move the story forward and to kind of make things, create another bind for them to get out of. And it's just like, come on. I mean, come on. You escape this prison. You were able to survive. You get onto the mainland, and then you just do the dumbest things over and over again. It's just frustrating. And then they create these detectives who are these, people who are after them, and they try to give them a backstory, and that's fine and everything, but it's just not working for me. And I feel really bad because the artwork, Tyler Crook's artwork is just excellent. I love his artwork. He also did the book. Was it Hollow? I forget the name of it, but he did another book, a horror book, a couple of years ago, I believe, with these. And I have to look it up. But anyway, he has great artwork, and it's being wasted on this story that is just not very good. So, unfortunately, I will have to throw in the towel on Out of Alcatraz, which is unfortunate because I really like this book, the first issue, and it just has flamed out. So, it's too bad.
So put him back in Alcatraz then.
Yeah, please just lock them back up, and just, because they're just annoying. And it's like they want to get caught. And I get, like, not all criminals are the smartest people, obviously, but they're told specifically, whatever you do not do this. And then I'm going to run out and do that. And then they get into trouble, and they create a problem for themselves. And then it's this big, it's just, come on, that's enough. So anyway, go to something more positive, which is Sisterhood, a Hyde Street story. This is a kind of an offshoot in the world of Hyde Street. You don't have to be reading Hyde Street to read this one. It is a story of two best friends. They are best friends since childhood, and they go through some really traumatic things together as children. They grow up and they go to college together, and then tragedy strikes. I don't want to get too much into it because I don't want to ruin the book, but I do like how they're setting it up, and it's not a story that we probably haven't seen. We've seen this story before in some variation, so it's not like they're blazing new trails here or anything. But I kind of dug it. It was fun, and I think I'm curious to see how they're going to tie it into Hyde Street and how this is all going to work together. But so far, I really enjoyed the first issue. It was in contention for pick of the week until I read my pick of the week.
Oh.
So yeah, good stuff. I'm really loving all the Hyde Street stuff. So keep it coming. Image. And this one's not written by Jeff Johns, but yeah, solid. It was a fun book. Yeah, like I said, it's not blazing new trails, but it was a fun story.
Nice. All right. Well, on to more positive. I read from Distillery Comics. I read Spectrograph #1 by James Tinian IV and artwork by Christian Ward. And I was pleasantly surprised once again by a Distillery comic, Wonder of Wonders, right? They have some good stuff. And this, and I was a little trepidatious because it's Spectre, not Spectro. So it's like it gives you this little hint that it's going to be like a horror-based comic. But it was, it drew me in because it was, the comic is based on the premise of questioning the existence of ghosts and, more importantly, life after death. And that's what this this guy is looking into, and it gives you a little flashback to 1967 to start off with. It's right on the first page, so that's not a spoiler or anything. But the and then it moves ahead to the present day, and there's in this first issue, there's a lot of introduction of stuff, so it took me a little bit to like latch on to the characters because I didn't know which ones to focus on. But by the end of the issue, I did, um, and I realized, okay, there's something pretty significant set up here that looks pretty interesting, and it immediately wanted me to get into the next issue, and as you'll see later, I did. But
Hmm.
um, the there is a kind of a trigger in this first issue because the one of the main characters is a really bad mom who makes a really bad decision. But it gets interesting after that, so just stick with it. Uh, so yeah, and it has there's this sinister occult organization and stuff like that. Where at least they come off as sinister. We don't know for sure. That's so it's interesting. You get some interesting character setup and development in this first issue, and and uh, and I'll talk about later how that develops as we go on.
Nice. It must be a good one because I know that you're not the biggest horror fan. So must be a good one.
Yeah, I like because it had a little history in there, and it was more of a investigational type thing rather than strict horror.
Hmm.
And plus the horror parts I thought they just handled well.
Yeah. I think horror is tough to pull off in comics. It can be. Yeah,
Yeah.
good stuff. I have to get to that one. I've had it's been on my it's been one of the books that made me need to get to, and I just haven't. Good to hear that you enjoyed it. And we'll get to issue 2 here in a few minutes. Before we get to our picks, I have one more, which is Whatever Happened to Crimson Justice, number 2, the longest title they could come up with. So, for those who don't know, this is kind of a Dark Knight Returns twist on a story where it's like a mix of Dark Knight Returns, this grizzled old beat up hero, this Batman type of character who decides to retire after some bad things happen to him. And he's kind of, his bones ache and he's old and he's like, he doesn't want to fight crime. The city falls apart around him. So what would be Gotham City is just falling apart, just getting worse and worse. And he has no interest in coming out of retirement. His arch nemesis, who is like kind of a Joker type of character, not really, that's kind of the comparison. He comes out, he tries to draw the hero back out of retirement, and he tries to, kind of do things to draw him out. So he's committing crimes and doing things to people to draw him out. And this issue, the first issue felt a little on the nose with kind of it was like Commissioner Gordon, and there's a lot of familiar characters and setups. And I thought I hope this isn't kind of just a carbon copy of other things, but this issue, it went pretty dark. Yeah, I was surprised that it went to where it went, but I do think that this is it's going to have some kind of twist, or it's going to kind of be a deconstruction Watchmen style. I'm not comparing it to Watchmen, but I think that kind of exploration into heroes and their motivations, and it's already touched on that a little bit. So I do think there's more going on here that they're working towards. So I'm excited to see what they're going to do. And yeah, I'm hanging on. So yeah, so far so good. I was impressed with this one.
Yeah, that's interesting. Every once in a while, it's interesting to see what someone else can do with the
Mhm.
deconstruction type of uh, you know approach to telling superhero stuff.
Mhm. And it's nice to get something different. And I love the old grizzled hero that is just you know one more time, one last hurrah kind of thing. I dig that kind of stuff. So I'm a sucker for it.
Awesome.
Yeah, but I guess we'll get into the pick of the week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, as hinted at previously, my pick of the week is Spectrograph number 2. And this continues on from the story that I explained earlier, number one. But what I liked about number two is you got to know at this point the crux of the story, what it's going to really be about, and there was just some great twists and turns thrown into this story that that actually caught me off guard. I was like, wow, that surprised me. And then there was these a bunch of questionable motivations with the characters you were introduced into the first issue. All of a sudden, you're wondering about some of their motivations, and you get almost a reversal of what you expect out of these characters, but in a very natural way that made sense based upon some of the revelations about their relationship with some of the other characters. And there's a couple flashbacks that explain these things, but they're very quick and they're very neatly done. They don't interfere with what's going on with the main story, except to really expand the character and get you a glimpse into their motivations and what have you. And so it's really nice character arcs, and I thought Tinian had some really great dialogue in this issue between two of the characters as well that I just enjoyed reading. And I just like where this book is going. I can't wait to get this. I think there's 2 more issues that we can read, and I'm looking forward to. I might just read them both next week.
Wow.
Because I really, really like this issue, and there's a real sense of tension about the what's gonna go on with this person who's you're starting to feel sympathy for, but you're still pissed off at her because of what she did in the first issue. But so there's a real sense of tension there about what's going to happen, and you can't do better. You can't ask for more than that in a good comic, is to give you that sense of tension that you need to know how that's going to resolve and whether or not you're going to be satisfied with how the character resolves this, or whether or not you're going to be really mad at this character in a good way, about how this resolves. And that's just good writing. So it's I'm looking forward to more.
It must be tough to pull off to make a character kind of frustrating, or kind of to have a character that upsets the reader, but then put them in a situation where the reader roots for them, or at least is concerned for them, even though they've done bad things. That must be tough to do, to write that line.
Yeah, and I don't want to overstate the bad thing, but it's criminal negligence is what she did, and you'll see why. But and the other character that she's with also is she is also she also is not she's very gray. She is not the nicest person, and her motivations were not the best ones. She didn't have the best intentions, but she also is somebody that you ultimately are like, okay, yeah, but you got to get out of this. So I'm rooting for you to get out of this, even though your intentions were crap to start with. So it was well done stuff.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I've seen that. I keep it's on my list, and I keep meaning to get to it. I just haven't, but now I'll have to. We'll see if I can catch up. So my pick of the week this week was Sleep #2 by Image Comics. I really liked the first issue. The second issue takes a step up, and it really cranks things up a notch. Issue 1 was more about introducing us to the main character, the town, all their interpersonal relationships, and it sets up this kind of small town that is being terrorized by a force, and you're not really sure what it is, but it seems to be like a beast that is just ravaging through the city at night and killing people and just destroying property and just creating havoc. And the main character is starts to wonder if he is the beast when he falls asleep, or if he sleeps, if is he this thing that's creating all this trouble? Because there are things that point to him being the reason that these things are happening. And the book is told in the book is drawn and colored in black and white, except there's a few select items that are red. And those items are red for a reason. And I haven't quite put it all together yet. It's almost like putting together a puzzle, trying to figure out what the significance of each item that is in red is. Because I think there's a reason, there's some kind of puzzle that is here for us to solve. So another thing I really like is that all the characters that are the supporting characters, even those that don't get a lot of page time, they all feel like people. They feel like fleshed out. They all look differently. They behave differently, even if they're just there for a short time. And you can kind of place, what this character is very quickly. So it's not easy to do either. So yeah, I really like this one. I love that it's kind of like this puzzle to put together. That there's these clues and I think I'm assuming there's going to be some kind of pull back the curtain at the end, or there's going to be a surprise or a shock as we get through the story. But I'm enjoying the ride. I think the artwork's great. Everything about it is good. I mean, it was just a good time, and I'm really digging the whole black, white, and red thing. And it was a good time. So, Sleep number 2. If that sounds interesting, go check it out. Yes.
You have to have really good artwork to pull off that black and white stuff.
Yeah, you can't really be too distracting with all the colors. It really has to stand on its own.
Cool.
Yeah. So we'll get to, for those of you reading along with us, Chris Claremont's run on X-Men. We'll be discussing 117 and 118, and it's funny because we go through these different comic books, and the beginning of 117, which I really like this issue, the X-Men are kind of like out in the middle of sea on this raft, and they get rescued by a boat, and it's just kind of, and then Storm wasn't able to control the weather, because most people, like I thought so too, like why doesn't Storm just control the weather and get them, help them out because of the storm they're in? And it's different to see. I think we've talked about this before. In Marvel, they treat heroes as people, and in DC, they treat them as gods, or like these beings that are larger than life. So it was different seeing the X-Men being helpless and having to depend on a random boat to save them.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, she did mention that she was trying, and that the weather in this case was just too much, and of course they've been through this nonstop action for like 8 issues now, whatever, and yeah, so that it was it's very interesting. I like the approach, and it's refreshing. Like you said, the god aspect of some of the superheroes, it seems like they can only have a rough time if they're facing down other gods who are the villains or what have you, rather than just everyday problems that like getting tired and not being able to control the weather as much as you could before. So it's very, very interesting to see that. Yeah. Even Professor X, um, he's supposed to be the most powerful telepath in the world, but he's worn down. He's tired. He's he's in despair because he thinks all the X-Men are dead,
Mm-hmm.
and that's you can just tell that that's having a toll on him, and that's what leads to his decision to go out into space. Like, what have I got here? I failed, and it's very human for these characters. They're very human. They're acting like anybody else would in these kind of situations.
the whole astral projecting thing I thought was pretty neat.
Yes. Well, yes, we in this issue, yeah, we get into his past, Xavier's
Mhm.
past, and where we find out he met Aurora as a little kid.
Mhm.
She stole his wallet, and
Yeah.
yeah, and we get introduced to Amal Farouk, um, who has, interestingly enough, a very similar philosophy that Magneto does, because he's like, yeah, these humans are ants to us. We should be ruling them. You know, this mutants are better, and um, you know, and we get the like you said, the nice astral projections battle and stuff like that. It I I do remember there was a TV show out a while ago, Legion.
Mhm.
It was on FX, and I think they stole the the visualization for one of the sets on there,
Oh.
um, from this comic book where they were having that mental battle on that like a plateau or whatever it was, and that looked just like something similar in that show where they
Huh.
were having a psychic battle. I don't know if you ever saw it, but it was a pretty cool, it was a pretty wild show. But
Hmm.
um, because Legion, you know, eventually is Professor X's son, um,
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
in the comics, and that's who the show was based on.
Huh.
But the but I think they stole that from this book. That the imagery, John Byrne's imagery, they stole that for the show. It's just too much of a coincidence, too close to it.
Hmm.
To somebody must have done their homework. Uh, but so it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to read this issue. I really liked it. I really liked X's history there, and I really liked the fact that he agrees to go up into space with Lilandra, and Jean goes off alone. She's, you know, she's mourning her own way, and I just thought that was cool as hell.
Yeah, I did. We'll get to kind of the because I think the initial reaction was when the X Men got picked up in their boat, like they could just contact Professor X, and then we found out that they turned the phones off, which I think technology ruins a lot of those stories for us now because now we think, well, just send them a text. They couldn't because they turned the phones off and the X Men were stuck and they couldn't let them know that they were alive. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, it's like that. Those simple, like, just
Yeah.
easy explanations, like for keeping the characters apart.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah,
But, the artwork though was so good.
it is so good. Yeah. Um, and then yeah, and then in the next issue, we get that little surprise. You know, Wolverine reads
Hmm.
Japanese, of course, which plays a part. You know, coming down the line here,
Right.
because we meet Mariko
Yeah.
for the first time, which is huge. We know,
Yes.
as we know, as she plays a big part in his life coming later on down the line. And yeah, we it's interesting because you know, because we're going to Japan, of course, we have to be introduced to Sunfire again. We know how much of a jerk he is,
Yeah.
and even more than Cyclops.
He's kind of a dick. Yeah.
It's funny. Um, but yeah, I mean, eventually, I think because you know the character of Misty Knight is here, and she knows Jean's alive, but it just hasn't come up.
Yeah. It seems
So
kind of weird.
you know, I have a feeling that it's got to come up eventually. You know, and then you know, then we have this Moses Magnum character, and isn't he a little too close to Magneto? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering about him.
So so with this series, I noticed that it seems like there's a new villain every couple of issues. There's a new, and we have the big introduction, and they have their name in big letters and text. Is that a good thing, or is that? It seems like kind of the villain of the week or villain of the month. And would you prefer longer arcs with villains, or are you okay with jumping around and kind of visiting smaller scale stories and villains?
Yeah. I mean, I'm okay with it now because it's nostalgic now. And we've had a fair share of long epic stories over the past 40 years or so, whatever it is. Um, and so uh, at the time, that's what they did. That was how they did comics back then. The long extended narrative wasn't really a thing yet until um until like Alan Moore started doing it with Swamp Thing and stuff
Mhm.
and other stuff, other things. I mean, this was the way they did comics. This was the way that Stan Lee did it too. When he first started Marvel, it would be very episodic from issue to issue, and he would sprinkle in one or two little things, little details that would carry forth later on, sort of like when we were getting all those little details of Jean Grey kind of losing control of the Phoenix and stuff like that, and that's going to come into play later. Um, but they kept that episodic nature because they still were trying to appeal to that kid who came in to the drugstore and went to the rack and picked up the issue. And no matter where in the run it was, if he picked up number 118, he would be introduced to a sparkly new villain, and
Mhm. It's
that
true.
was uh, that was what they were hoping would draw somebody into and try to seek out the next issue.
Do you think that that's been lost?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, you can't pick up a issue number 2 nowadays without being lost and wondering what happened in number 1. And and it's not that you wouldn't wonder what happened to these characters to get them where they are now, but it wouldn't derail your enjoyment of the current issue. Whereas if I read as much as I love, if I read Spectrograph number 2 without reading number 1, I'd be lost,
Yeah.
lost as hell, you know. This you wouldn't. This is how we got into the X-Men,
Yeah.
right? I picked up a random issue of Wolverine on an X cross type thing, and I was like, oh, okay, I'll read next month. It
Yeah.
was really cool. Uh,
Mm. Yeah, it's true. I didn't really think of it that way, but it seemed much easier. It seemed much easier to get into these stories back then. I just wondered if it was because I didn't like care as much, or I didn't really consider as much the storylines behind everything, or it didn't bother me as much. But yeah, it is easy to jump in now. Or back then, it was easy to just jump in and get an issue of whatever title it was, and you would enjoy it. And there would still be things that you miss out on, but it wouldn't, like you said, it wouldn't derail your enjoyment.
right, yeah, and and at the end of the '70s and early '80s that's when the advent of the back issue market started to get
Mm.
started to come into focus, and that added to the fun of finding older issues. I want to get Chris Claremont's run, so I would go to a comic book store
Mhm.
and look for him. But I think when these were coming out, that was still a very very young thing and not as well known that you could do that.
And then, of course, we have the speculator boom in the '90s and the mid '90s, early mid '90s.
Yeah,
So that
yeah,
changed a lot of things too.
yeah. Changed some things, ruined other things.
I think another thing that prevents these types of stories from being told in this style is crossovers, because they have to, everything has to be this grand event. That has to be this, you know, for the ability to later cross over titles and to get people to buy 5 different books when they just want to read one or two. And so I think that kind of changed things too. But instead of it being kind of a contained story, not that they didn't overlap or cross over, but it seems like they were more kind of doing their own thing, and they would cross over once in a while. But so,
Yeah.
but the artwork though is so good.
Uh, yeah. Once again, John Byrne. He was the master back then. He was probably the best artist working at this time.
Mm-hmm. So good. Yeah, anything you can think of from 117, 118?
No, I think we covered most of it.
Cool. Yeah, it's fun to talk about some comics, and even the bad ones. So it's still fun.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely.
So, Jared, where can people find you?
You can find me at the Fantasy Thinker YouTube channel, and you can find me on Speculation Podcast and Film Viewing, and a few other things here and there.
A couple of things. Yeah. Yeah, you can find me on pagetune.com. We have blog articles and book reviews, comic reviews, movie reviews. Any ones that I do are poorly written, but it is what it is. But yeah, come by and check it out. And say hello. We can also have our forum if you want to join that and discuss whatever we get on about there. Or send us a message with the link below in the description to let us know what your comfort read is. And if you have any suggestions or books that you really enjoy and you want to tell us about, let us know. Yeah, so hopefully everyone's week wasn't as bad as mine, and but hopefully next week is better. And if you, thank you for listening, and whatever it is that you're reading, we hope you find your pick of the week.
Bye-bye.